Good evening. Welcome to Public Works Committee meeting for January 3rd, 2022. We are joined by Councilmember Marley Larmer and Councilmember Fincher virtually, and myself, Satwinder Kaur, Councilmember. And we're also joined by Public Works Director Chad Barron and Cheryl Visette, keeping us on track. First of all, I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. May 2022 bring health and happiness to all of us. And thanks to our Public Works crew for keeping our roads clear this past week. Thank you. We are very appreciative. With that, do we have any changes to the agenda? No changes. Thank you. And we are ready for approval of minutes for December 6, 2021.
I move to approve minutes dated December 6, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 And we are good with minutes for December 6, 2021. Thank you. Next up, we have Melissa with Downey Farmstead Side Channel Restoration, Washington Department of Ecology Shorelands Plains by Design Grant Agreement.
Yes, hello, welcome. Happy 2022. I'm happy to bring forward the Downey Side Channel Restoration, a grant agreement for that project. I want to introduce the Floodplains by Design grant to begin with. As you mentioned, it is a grant from the Department of Ecology. Essentially, the focus of the grant is to provide restoration to floodplains, which are significant for the Green River in particular. The Downey project is one of those types of floodplain restoration projects, so it fit in perfectly with this grant. Ecology has very generously gifted us $3.2 million for that project, with about an $800,000 match. We do have other grant dollars that we have brought before you in the past, and those dollars will be used for match for that project. Essentially, we've brought up about $9 million of grants for this project, and the exciting part with this last chunk of money is that it's enough to complete the project this year. So right now, Public Works crews are working towards getting the plans and specifications ready for bidding that here in a few months. That work will include the finished excavation, the installation of the remaining habitat structures, and then finish up with the rest of the planting. So we're excited that that project's going to be wrapped up here in a little bit, and that this grant will help us to complete that work. And then just an aside from that, I did want to provide you guys with an update. I know that last month at the last Public Works Committee meeting of the year, Councilmember Fincher brought up some ongoing concerns of dumping along Frigger Road. The Downey project does include that reach. Pictures that I have here are actually older pictures of dumpings at the site. These have since been cleaned up, but it is an ongoing issue of this site. So I've been working with Tony Downey, who brought before a contract to you guys last month. The contract was with, I believe, Totem Logistics. Tony and I have been coordinating, and once that contract is executed, we'll be bringing it. We will be working towards getting this site cleaned up first. It's top of the list for him. So it's on our radar. We're working to continue to address this ongoing issue. So with that, circling back, would like your approval for the grant agreement for Floodplains by Design, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have about that.
Any questions, Councilman Larmer?
I was actually just going to ask where we were on track to complete it, so I'm thrilled to hear that this will do it and we can complete it this year. That's super exciting. So
yeah, it's going to be great. We'll have a big celebration in the near future.
Awesome.
Awesome. Councilmember Fincher, any questions?
I was just going to say thank you, because I know with the grants, I believe this was well over $5 million, and less than, or right around 800,000 is what our portion was. So I know that that is partly due to the diligent work in finding grants and all. Plus, we have our landscape division that has the garden over there, which, as you can see, saves us quite a bit of money. So thank you guys for all of the hard work and planning that you have done to get us to this point. And again, thank you also to the Floodplains by Designs and the other grants that we've gotten.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. With that, we're ready for a motion.
Yeah, I move to authorize the mayor to sign a shoreline Floodplains by Design grant agreement with the Washington State Department of Ecology in the amount of $3,200,000 $226,880 for the Downey Side Channel Restoration Project, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the City Attorney and Public Works Director.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 That motion passes. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
We love getting funding to fund our projects. And next, we have Rob Brown with parking ordinance for Green River Road.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Rob Brown, Transportation Engineering Manager, Public Works. It's nice to see the committee, and I hope everyone had a happy new year. This afternoon, I'm presenting proposed parking code amendments for Green River Road near the 277th Street Dahl Wickstrom Bridge over the Green River for your consideration. So there is a small section of the Green River Road in Kent, if you see near the bottom of the screen here, the little blue box. Right under 277th Street, we have about 1,800 feet of Green River Road that is in the city limits. And this next slide shows an aerial photo of that. The city limits are shown in the kind of bluish purple lines. On either side of Kent is King County, so north and south of the city's section of Green River Road is King County. So we understand that access to the 277th Corridor Trail, which I'll highlight here. I'll try. There we go. So there's the bridge there across the Green River, and then the trail continues up to 108th Avenue, the top of the hill. We understand that access to the trail and also the Green River itself was important. And so for these parking restrictions that we're proposing that the orange sections, which are near the trail and then near the location where the river access is. So we've got two sections up here, two sections down here. That's for trail access, and then river access is down here towards the bottom. These are locations where we've got wide shoulders and wide pull-out areas where people can easily park outside of the traffic lanes for access to those recreational areas. And so we're proposing that those areas are no parking between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. So that would allow people to park from obviously 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. during daytime hours to access those recreational facilities. The other areas along the Green River Road shown in red are the areas that we are proposing would be no parking areas. And these are areas where either there isn't enough room, enough shoulder width to park, or locations where we've seen a large increase in long-term parking and littering and dumping. So I would like to point out that there are no private properties or no public access government properties that are accessed from the Green River Road in the city of Kent. So there are no driveways. We have a detention pond access. That's the only thing actually in our section of Kent. And I also wanted to mention that we did work with the law department and the Kent Police Department when we were developing these proposed restrictions. So, the primary purpose for proposing these restrictions are due to environmental concerns. These are just a few pictures that show some of the increased litter and dumping along the Green River Road. You can see that there's, well, not shown exactly in these pictures. The picture on the right shows the pickup truck. Just on the other side of that guardrail is the river. The picture in the bottom center, that's at the detention pond just north of the Dahl Wickstrom Bridge. And again, we are, within 100 or so feet of the Green River, and you can see people are taking cars apart. And so this is a serious environmental concern for the city. King County also recently implemented no overnight parking restrictions along their sections of the Green River Road to the north and to the south of the city of Kent section. And then one last thing. As we went through and proposed the modifications to the code, to the parking code, we do these, we try and take that opportunity to update the code and reorganize things. So section 9.38.045, this is the existing section that prohibits parking from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. We wanted to take this opportunity to make a couple of adjustments. The first is to put it in alphanumeric order. That makes it easier for all of us, for those of us that work with the code, for the law department, for engineering, and also for the enforcement side of things with the police department, so that it's easy to find those sections just quickly through the alphanumeric reordering. And then we came across a location that in the code that says both sides of Southeast 274th Street between 128th and Springwood Park. So this is the area that's shown in the map on the screen in the blue box. And this is actually within the King County's Birch Creek property and has been for quite some time. And so it's not entirely clear what the intent of this section was. It is possible that it could be 126 Place to the park, so that would be on the, push the right button here. It could be this section here, 126 Place here to the park on the west side of the park. But in doing research, we determined that we don't believe we've ever installed any no parking signs there. And after talking to the police department, they don't feel that it's a parking concern, and we have not received any complaints from any of the neighbors in that neighborhood on that section. So we are proposing that that section be removed of the code. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
So based on the pictures, it looks like this is not a matter of folks camping overnight for lack of being sheltered. It looked like it was more junking and parting vehicles.
This is environmental concerns with, just as in the picture, we saw the people taking cars apart.
Okay.
I'm sure they're not catching the oil and the fluids and things like that when they're taking those things apart, or the litter from the RV. It just takes a pretty minor rain event for those things to wash across the road into the river.
Okay. Where cities have done this, the restrictions, you said King County had done this previously. I mean, does it work? I mean, what do we do if it continues, if they just ignore the signs? I mean, does this allow us to then just to tow at our expense and remove them, or do we cite anybody for violations, or?
So we again, on the engineering side, we do the signs, we implement your code. The police department can, for RVs and, camping particularly, my understanding, and I may look to somebody else to see if anybody else wants to jump in here. Due to the Homestead Act, they can't tow RVs, but they can cite them and ticket them for no parking.
Okay.
Councilmember Fincher?
No, just looking up the road. So if they can't tow the RV, they cite it for them no parking, and it continues to park there. It sounds like the fines can build, but nothing really happens.
So is that like a question? Are you saying that we had issues?
No, just a comment.
Okay, thank you.
Just a comment, something for us to keep in mind and try to see if, what the next step would actually be.
Do you have a comment to that?
Yeah, quick comment. King County, as Rob pointed out, they restricted parking north and south of here in the unincorporated areas. So our plan was to bring this today for consideration and then bring it to other business tomorrow night at the council meeting. There's a note in the packet for the ordinance, having it enacted as an emergency ordinance so that it would be in place on Wednesday, right after council authorizes it, assuming council authorizes it. This would allow us to take it right away, and the reason is county does their no parking zones a little differently. They give the authority to their road engineer, and then they can sign them. City code gives that authority to the council, so the council passes the ordinance. If we didn't do it as an emergency, then it would take 30 days to take place, and we're thinking that with a lot of the activity that's out there on Green River Road, that we could end up having a lot of folks move into this area, move down the street once they get notice from King County and say, we'll just move down there to 277th, and then we'd see a lot of this happening right away. So we're just trying to, we already put the signs up, but they're not enforceable right now.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
So when will they be enforceable?
Assuming the council would pass it tomorrow night, they'd be enforceable on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, okay. And so tonight we're just putting the signs up?
Tonight is just moving it on to council for consideration tomorrow. But we put it on other business since generally we would allow it to go on the consent calendar.
Okay.
All right, with that, we're ready for a motion.
I move to recommend council adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 9.38 of the King County Code to add.
City Code.
Huh?
Kansas City.
in city code.
You said King County.
Oh, sorry. Kent City Code to add locations to the Green River Road to the no parking zone and prohibit overnight parking in other locations on Green River Road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
At that, we are ready to move on to our council tomorrow night. Thank you. Any other items to bring before this committee?
We're all done.
We're all
One
done.
today.
All right.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Madam.
Madam Chair?
Councilmember Fincher.
I was just going to say, since we are done, I want to pass out a quick thank you to both the snow removal crew, the EMS departments, also to the sidewalk and signal techs for getting some lights up on 259th and all the other hard work that they've been at for the past, well, always, but especially, here recently with the weather. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll pass that along. We were discussing whether or not we wanted to have kind of report out on how things went last week, but we thought it might jinx the remainder of the winter. So we decided we'd wait until we were sure it was
Don't jinx
over.
it.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. I echo Councilmember Fincher's comments.
Absolutely.
All right. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.